Good evening and welcome to the Gold Goats and Guns Hour here on YouTube and Anomaly D Live. My name is Tom Luongo. I hope you're all having a great day. It is Friday. It's November 8th. It's 2019 and we've got a lot going on. Sorry, I'm a little late. For some reason, settings under Restream were not quite set. So it took me a couple of minutes, boomer tech and all that, guys. All right, well, got a lot to talk about this evening. I want to talk about some stuff that I wrote about earlier in the week vis-a-vis Germany. We're going to talk about that along with other things. I also want to talk about the completely disastrous, if not thoroughly awesome, appearances by Donald Trump Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard on The View, though that's not the highlight reel for the evening, though I do think we need to talk about this. But the situation in Germany is actually far more acute than I think a lot of people want to admit, and because of that, there's a lot to talk about. And I know that Alex over at the Duran talked about the results in Thuringia after they occurred and how important they were. I riffed off of that last week and wrote an article about it, but then it came to my attention that things for Angela Merkel in Germany are even more worrisome than we first thought, and I'm going to go into the specifics of it and why. And it really does portend, as far as I'm concerned, from my position, that Merkel could be gone very soon from power, even though no one of consequence in Europe wants that to happen. The possibility of it happening grows every day. All right. Before we get too far along, though, before we get into that, remind everybody that if you like what you hear tonight, please like and subscribe down below. Do the whole YouTube thing. All links are down below in the description to the video. So like it, subscribe it, retweet it, do all that stuff, that social media thing. I know most of you aren't particularly social media savvy. That's kind of why you love me. But you can find me over at tomluongo.me. You can find me on weekly on moneyandmarkets.com as well as strategicculture.org. Let's see, what else is there? Oh, yeah. And as always, you can support the channel by installing the Brave browser. And because I'm a registered publisher with Brave, and you can use a far better browser than the one that Google was trying to sell you or anybody else is trying to sell you, because you can actually earn, aside from the fact that it'll protect your privacy, you can actually earn crypto while you're doing so, and then you can tip your favorite content providers as long as they're a verified publisher. And if you have favorite content creators who are not verified publishers on Brave, well, then you can try and get them to get set up on it. I've been using Brave now for about 6 months. All of you have been very generous in your donations, those of you who have installed it. And of course, the link, there's a referral link down below where I'll get a kickback if you like it and use it for 30 days. So, if you want to just support that way without putting your own hard-earned money out, well, you can do it that way. And then, of course, then there's the hard-earned money way, and that's Patreon. And, everybody has a Patreon, and I've had one for now a little over 2.5 years. I do twice weekly market reports at the $4 level, and for the $12 a month level, we do a once a month investment newsletter designed to help you create a portfolio strategy to navigate all of this crazy political stuff that's going on, because the world is going nuts. If you haven't noticed, and if you haven't noticed yet, you aren't paying attention. So there you go, and you can find that over at Patreon/GoldGoatsAndGuns. Again, there's links down below. You should be able to find it if you're so arsed to do so. And if you don't want to sign up for anything in particular, but you do like the channel, well, then there's ways to donate as well through Patreon, through PayPal and crypto. And there's even a Cafe Press store if you want, goat swag. So let's do it. And now that there are a number of people in the channel and I'm done with my opening remarks, let's talk about this. Merkel. It's fall, right? It's gorgeous, right? It's fantastic outside. It's we're getting a little bit of the Arctic cold front here in North Florida. We're getting a little bit of the Arctic cold front that the rest of the country is getting, or at least the rest of the East Coast is getting, because it's I almost have to wear socks outside. And but it's gorgeous, and it's a little overcast, and it's going to be clear and cold, and the lows are going to be in the 40s in a couple days. So it's fall, which means winter. And when fall and winter and all that stuff start happening, what are we looking at? We get into the time where political change usually occurs in this time of the year. So for Merkel in Germany, there's been a series of state elections, right, that have occurred over the course of the last couple of months. And in the beginning of September, we had Brandenburg and Saxony. And then just last week, we had Thuringia. And these are all former East Germany states. And what's interesting, now, all of these results were good for the populist, nominally right-wing party Alternative for Germany, or AfD. They did well in all three of these states. Merkel and the rest of the German political establishment have ruled out doing any kind of coalition deals with them in any way, manner, shape, and form. Right? We saw greater than 20% in all three of these state elections. But the one in Thuringia is interesting because not only did AfD do well and beat out Merkel's Christian Democratic Union, or CDU, we also saw a complete and utter collapse of both the Social Democrats and the Greens. And the reason why this is fascinating is because Die Linke, and there's like 6 or 7 parties in Germany, but Die Linke, who has been ruling Thuringia since they won in 2014, for the first time since reunification. The CDU wasn't in charge, and in 2014, Die Linke took over in a 3-way coalition with the Greens and the Social Democrats. Well, both of those collapsed, where they did have enough to create a majority in 2014. They don't this year. Die Linke took about 30%, 31%. The Social Democrats took 8%, and the Greens barely got 5%, barely even qualified to get a seat. And so that leaves things up that leaves things unsettled. Same thing is going on in Saxony, and the same thing to a lesser extent in Brandenburg. Here's the kicker. And it was only pointed out to me by a long-term political observer, and I think political observer, and not just observer, but active participant in Germany, who emails me all the time whenever I get something wrong, because that is his want. And I'm not going to claim in any way, manner, shape, or form that I'm an expert on German politics. I'm more of an expert than I was 2 years ago, but like everything else, I understand American politics. I'm an American. I'm not a German. But what he explained to me was it wasn't the Bundestag that's the issue. The Bundestag is like the House of Commons or the House of Representatives. It's the House of the German legislature, which is a representation of what the people want, right? We have it, in both the House of Commons and House of Representatives are elected. Individuals are elected on a constituent basis. And in Germany, it's just done proportionally. Well, for the most part, it's done proportionally. And so if a party gets, 25%, then they'll get 25% of the seats in the Bundestag. With the national polling moving against the current CDU-SPD coalition, right? Total, they're commanding less than 45% of the vote, and it's probably closer to 40 now than it was before. Actually, yeah, it's about 40%. And the complete collapse of the Social Democrats, who are now down to about 14%. There's always the worry that one of them are going to pull out of the coalition, or there's going to be a push for a new election. That doesn't normally happen in Germany. It happens in Italy all the time. The minute somebody loses, they lose a majority, the Italians are like, all right, what the fuck you people, let's go for a new general election. The average Italian government lasts 18 months, whereas in Germany, they always limp along until the next actual scheduled election, almost always. And so that's not really the worry here, except that the SPD is in such terminal decline that with their party Congress coming up in December, there's always the possibility that there'll be a groundswell against the party leadership to do something about the national coalition at the Bundestag level. Because they didn't even want to enter into this current coalition in 2017 in the first place with Merkel, because because being hooked up with her has been so disastrous for them over the last 5 or 7 years. But what my friend pointed out to me was the following. The Bundestag is one thing, but then there's the Bundesrat, which is nominally like the Senate or the House of Lords. Less like the House of Lords, certainly, than it is like the Senate. In the original conception of the United States legislature, the House of Representatives represents the people, and the Senate represents the states. And in the Bundesrat, which in Germany functions similarly, right? One is the Bundestag is for the people, represents the people, and the Bundesrat represents the states. It's the members of the state government that go to the Bundesrat as representatives. It's not based on the vote in that particular state. It's based on who puts a coalition government together. And they go and they're apportioned seats based on their population. There's 69 seats in the Bundesrat. And states get between 3 and 6 votes. If I remember correctly. I think it's 3 and 6 votes. There's 69 seats based on population. And, if the German population would expand, the size of the Bundesrat would also expand, because the number of seats is literally based upon population numbers, 2, 4, 7 million. I think those are the breakpoints. But what's important here is to understand is that the Greens, having been able to worm their way into coalitions and state governments around Germany, control 37 out of 69 seats, because each state in the Bundesrat votes as a block. It's not like if Brandenburg has 5 seats and it's a coalition government between 3 parties, that those seats are then apportioned based on their relative importance within the local government. No. The whole 5 seats act as one. Okay, so if you have a situation where the CDU gets 30%, the SPD gets 5%, and the Greens get 7%, and they put a coalition government together, the Greens, with 7% of the vote, have veto power in the Bundesrat. It's fucked up when you really stop to think about it. So the Greens have 37 seats in the Bundesrat, and they do vote as a block and as a veto against everything. And this is how they've been able to put tremendous pressure on Merkel to get her to give them political concession after political concession after political concession. And if you look at the latest German budget, where it was all over the Western press, how Merkel gave all these sops to the Greens, and they're going to get rid of their coal plants in the next 20 years, and they're going to do all this stuff that the Greens want. Not just because the Greens are polling nationally very high and are now really the major left-wing party in Germany, but because they have so many seats within the Bundesrat that they can veto effectively as a block all legislation that comes out of the Bundestag. Now, this is where it gets interesting. We have 2 different states where the Greens are potentially going to wind up out of power. Ready? This is a little weird. The first is Thuringia. Obvious. In Thuringia, they got 5% of the vote. They're not going to be part of the government. There's no form of coalition other than 4 parties getting together and forming a coalition. Die Linke won't work with the CDU under any circumstances. The CDU won't work with Alternative for Germany at all. Die Linke and AfD won't form a kind of 5-star Lega populist, Eurosceptic government because they hate each other. So there's no good solution to this other than like getting 4 parties together: the SPD, the Greens. I don't even know how they do it. Maybe the Free Democrats. They can maybe be able to cobble something together. Okay. But none of it's going to work. But that's likely not going to work. And so there's 4 seats that they lose in the Bundestag right there off the top. That's 33. That puts them in serious trouble. Then, moreover, the Greens and the CDU are in a coalition in Hesse, the Hessian state government. 5 seats in the Bundestag. 5. It's a 2-party coalition. But guess what? They rule with a 1-seat majority. And that 1-seat majority is under attack from from AFD because they have filed a lawsuit to get, because they feel they were shorted a seat based on the electoral results, that the seats were portioned and the votes were miscounted. And they were able to put a government together in Hesse that they shouldn't have been able to put together. And that is likely to actually pass in or be ruled upon in AFD's favor, because it's not a partisan thing. It's not a political process. This is just numbers, and the law is very clear about this. So if that were to happen, that coalition will fail. And they're going to have to like scramble and figure something out. And there's 5 more seats that the Greens no longer have. Now, it's possible in Brandenburg and Saxony for a Jamaica-style coalition. And Jamaica is for the 3, is just the 3 colors of the 3 parties, red, black, and green, which is the colors of the Jamaican flag, that you can get a CDU, SPD, Green coalition to form in Brandenburg and Saxony. And that would offset all of this. But that's not likely, because Merkel's not been able to get the Greens on board in that kind of coalition in the past. She wasn't able to do it in 2017 at the national level. It failed. If you all remember going back to that, it was crazy. So, so that's the situation, and that's what Merkel's facing. And against that backdrop, there are party congresses in December that may just blow all of this up. And while the SPD may not blow up the coalition at the national level, the Bundestag, they may demand Merkel's resignation as chancellor and a reforming of the coalition in order to keep it going. But then that's going to piss off everybody else if that coalition fails and the government is shaken up. Moreover, Merkel's handpicked successor, Annegret Kramp-Karrenbauer, AKK, who is currently the defense minister, by the way, who also went off the frickin' rails and was negotiating a peace process in Syria against Merkel's wishes behind her back. But AKK, Karrenbauer, hasn't been able to stabilize the party. She's not in a strong position within the party at this point. Merkel's losing support within her own party because they keep losing elections here. And at a certain point, you can't just keep saying, oh, but EU, we have to keep EU going. And that's Merkel's position and has been her position while she makes deals. And again, Alex at the Duran did a great video on this a couple of weeks ago, right after the Thuringia elections. Absolutely recommend everybody watch it. That Merkel's gig has been to keep everything on hold and just keep everything moving in the direction it's supposed to be moving and not allow any changes to happen and make deals behind the scenes to keep the status quo in place while everything's falling apart around her. She's turned into Kevin Bacon at the end of Animal House, for Christ's sake. No, everybody stay calm. Everything's fine, while she's getting run over. And if Merkel is ousted as Chancellor of Germany, Which, by the way, the SPD party Congress is the same week as the British elections. Just saying. I'm just throwing it out there. That when you put all this stuff together, we might have a complete fucking meltdown in European politics in a little over a month. It's mind-boggling how quickly this could all unravel. Because once Merkel and the Greens lose the ability to set the agenda in the Bundesrat, it creates legislative gridlock at the Bundestag. What the fuck is the point of having the coalition government that they currently have? Everything stops until 2021. We're going to hold everything together until 2021 for a scheduled election? I don't know, folks. Germany's entering recession, okay? They're not entering recession. They're in a recession. The numbers just haven't caught up to the fact yet. This is a dead economy walking. This is a dead political system walking. This is a dead coalition walking. It's a dead chancellor walking. Everything about German politics is changing, and yet we're still stuck with this miasma of suck. This is the best way to put it. And so now what do they do? I don't know that there's enough, a lot of these people, I say this all the time, that these people who have been in charge and have wielded immense political power for so long, but they've always had all the advantages. They've always had the playing field set for them. It's like it's easy to use power and to win. It's easy to win a football game when you have all the biggest and strongest guys, and everybody else has been handed 98-pound weaklings or out of shape old guys, and you're all the young and you just run over everybody. It's easy to win and go, yeah, see, we're indestructible, we're unbeatable because we have all the good players and nobody has anything else, right? It's easy to win a war when we have all the tanks and the planes and everything else, and you're not allowed to even show up with sticks. Well, of course you win every fucking battle. It doesn't make them good at what they do. I make this point about Nancy fucking Pelosi all the time. That cunt. She's not very impressive, people. She's not even a very strong leader, and she's not particularly good at running the Democratic Party. But because the whole fucking American political system has been handed to her on a silver platter to win, she wins. But she actually doesn't. And the minute you put any pressure on them whatsoever and you force them to actually fight in a way that is that where the playing field is even close to being level, and you see what happens. They lose every minor battle. She has lost every major skirmish with Donald Trump in 3 years. It's just that the playing field was so thoroughly tilted against him that every win he's made hasn't looked like it's gotten him anywhere, but it has. I get a note from somebody behind the scenes that says, look, dude, you're just describing boomers. Yes, I am. These are people, not all boomers, but you're describing people who are just not impressive. When you look at what's been happening in Brexit, okay, all of those career politicians those career MPs who have never had to really work for their seat, fight for their seat, worry about being thrown out of office or anything else. They've just been able to go and do whatever the hell they wanted to do and whatever they were told to do. And all they had, and the hardest job they had was figuring out how best to sell it without looking like they were selling their people down the fucking river. Everybody is doing this in the United States, in the UK, in France, in Germany, in all these freaking places, in the EU, they're all doing it. As former Greek finance minister Yanis Varoufakis says about the EU, that these people don't listen to you. You go up there with all of your charts and your your good arguments as to why we need to act like this, and this, and you get done. And after you're done, talking to them for an hour or so, they look at you like you just sung the Swedish national anthem, and then they ignore you and they go on with their day because they've never had to actually consider the other person's side of the ledger, because the playing field has always been so tilted in their favor. Because in politics, if you only project strength, and Merkel has done nothing but try to project the fact that she is still in charge in Germany and she's still in charge of the EU, even though Macron is fucking her over left and right every damn day. Even though her party is revolting against her, even though she can barely keep the Bavarian CSU online, which is basically the CDU for Bavaria. You can't keep any of these people online. So it's unreal. And the older these people get, look, at the end of the day, these people are not in their prime of life. It's not like they're fighting with their, I mean, I don't mean to be ageist here or anything, because there are plenty of vital 75 and people in their 70s and their late mid 70s and late 70s, perfectly vital, people. But their best years are behind them. Their ability to put in 14-hour days, not there anymore. Look, seriously, I don't put in days like I used to, and I don't want to work that, and I'm only in my 50s. So when you really look at all of this stuff, this is the last flight of the boomers, right? Merkel, Pelosi, look, fucking Mike Bloomberg is going to get into the presidential race because he thinks, well, everybody else is so freaking weak, maybe I can get in there. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what's going to get the Democratic nomination in 2019 or 2020. A white billionaire, Jewish New Yorker. Like that guy is going to that guy's going to win the Democratic nomination. What is Bloomberg thinking? But Bloomberg is such a solipsistic, up his own ass, arrogant fucking boomer that he can't. Why wouldn't he be able to get into the race and save the Democratic Party from itself and save the country and save the world from the scourge of Donald Trump? Got news for you. The scourge of Donald Trump is going to win 400 electoral votes the way these people are going. I'm almost at this point hoping Hillary Clinton gets in the race, because otherwise this thing is over and I'm not even interested. What the hell am I going to talk about for a year? North on 60 reminds me that Biden, Pelosi, and several others are medically impaired. They have dementia and are completely nuts while drunk on power. Oh, I think Pelosi is a stroke victim. She presents just like my mom did before she died. Tenjin says, you just gave me a vision of future nursing homes playing Flight of the Valkyries over the PA system. Yeah, well, they play fucking bingo. Think about it. I mean, I posted that picture of George Soros a couple of on as the cover for a recent live stream, and it was George worrying, looking this way and worrying, and then you could see the hearing aid, and he's like, you look at him and with the liver spots and he's 89 years old, for fuck's sake. Do you think George Soros is really operating at his highest function at this point? He's on autopilot. A good friend of mine likes to say his brain's cooked. He's 89 years old. I mean, I don't mean to be rude or anything, but it's true. People are just, there's a limit to what the human body can do and be in terms of its ability to process information at 90 years old. Kissinger is at 94, walking around still trying to advise people on foreign policy because he's so goddamn smart. No. Bloom Turd has less chance of winning than I would. He's not going anywhere. LG Bear says, my 70-year-old mom is on over 20 pills to keep her propped up. She's a train wreck. The boomers I see around town are Care Bears who need their licenses revoked. Well, I wouldn't say that about all of them. I mean, honestly. But I can tell you that at that age, once you pass a certain point, the flexibility of mind is not possible. And this is well understood. Your neural pathways are burned. You are who you are. You're not going to change. And Hillary Clinton still believes she was put on this earth to become the first woman president. Hillary Clinton is a sick, deluded woman who needs to be in a nursing home, watching game shows. They're still a thing. You know, it's not that, you know, at the end of the day, when you look at them, you can just see that they're just not healthy people. And that means that they're not mentally healthy. Okay? It is what it is. I always like the picture Tension says of cowering, of Mario Draghi cowering in front of the young woman. Yeah, that's a perfect one. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. It's, you know, there's a lot of wisdom in, there should be a lot of wisdom in those brains to be dispensed to the younger generations, but it's not there. It's not evident in people like Angela Merkel and Nancy Pelosi and Soros and the rest of them. It's just not there. They have had they're on a path, and they're going to run that path until you take the reins of power from them and you sit them down and you go, no, that's enough. Stop. And someone in Germany needs to take Angela Merkel and sit her down and say, you're done. Before you ruin the fucking country. And you ruin everything. Take all of this rant and adjust it for your specific individuals that you know over the particular age that we're talking about. Of course, there are perfectly healthy 87-year-olds out there. And there are completely unhealthy 50-year-olds. I'm not even saying that we should have age limits or anything along those lines. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying that, especially in the case of baby boomers, there's a generational imprint that they all share. And certainly the ones who have wormed their way to the top of the political order. They all share the same ideology. Why? Because they're the ones who had the table set for them, took over the reins of power, and then set the table for themselves. I mean, look, I get angry every once in a while with Pat Buchanan. I read an article by Buchanan who I love. And I love Pat. I think he's brilliant. I don't always agree with him, but I think he's brilliant and I love his work, and even the work that I disagree with, I respect. But sometimes the work that I disagree with is because he's trapped in his own worldview that is, unfortunately, in spots, very much out of date. Because he's lost the flexibility of mind. And it's going to happen to me, guys. If we're still doing this 20 years from now, I got news for you. I'm going to be an old curmudgeon with more gray hair, even less than what I currently have. And, you know, and I'm going to just be ranting into a fucking microphone. And you guys are like, dude, you're just like old and sick. I already get that from the kids already, you know? So it is what it is. Doug Murray says transfusions of children's blood are hopefully getting harder to come by for people like Soros. North on 60 says they need to be on a keto diet where autophagy cleans up the neural pathways and all of that. And I would absolutely agree with that. And the more I go hardcore keto, and I wasn't going to talk about this tonight, but the more I go hardcore keto, the more I realize that I'm working at a far higher level than I was just 3 months ago, and it's only been 2 months. And I'm not just talking hardcore keto; I'm on a hardcore carnivore diet at this point. But yes, a ketogenic diet with intermittent fasting, and the rest of it is absolutely necessary. Like, I look at myself in the mirror in the mornings, and I'm like, I don't even recognize myself. Like my face hasn't been this thin in years. I don't even recognize myself. So. Yeah, the one thing that scares me about Tulsi Gabbard is that she's a vegan. That means that her clarity of mind is only going to last about another 5 years. So, again, this is not meant to be an ageist rant. It's not. Obviously, everybody's life is different. I'm not even going to fucking virtue signal on this. You guys know what I'm talking about. Okay? And those that work hard to keep their mind sharp and vibrant, and they take care of themselves in their middle age, will be able to put off and stave off the natural effects of aging and the natural loss of organ function for as long as possible. There's no doubt in my mind about that. I see it all the time. Okay? It's part of the reason why I advocate for a ketogenic diet. It's part of the reason why my wife and I have been working on her parents for years to give up the freaking carbs, to give up the wheat, and to give up all this crap, and to give up the lipid hypothesis. And they won't do it. And I'm just watching two fantastic people fall apart quickly, and it's sad, and it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Putin is near 70, and he's sharp as a tack and is physically fit. There's a reason why. Because he still works out all the time. He eats well. He doesn't drink. He doesn't smoke. He drinks tea. I mean, Putin takes care of himself, and he has always took care of himself. And that's why he looks the way he does at 70 years. Putin looks to me like every freaking Asian martial arts master I've ever seen. These guys walk around. I mean, the guy who I learned, who was the master of the school that I studied at for years, who taught my instructors. Second, he's first generation Korean. I mean, the man barely speaks English. But I remember looking at him at 70 years old going, holy shit, he looks better than I do. He's built like a freaking brick shithouse. He was brilliant. It was crazy. Took good care of himself. Worked out every day. Devoted his entire life to being unbelievably physically fit. And then, of course, on top of that, being sharp of mind. And so, don't get me wrong. You absolutely can and should try to stave off the effects of aging as much as possible. But the people who have been living the life of these people, Putin is an anomaly. Juncker, Donald Tusk. Come on, man. John Bercow, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Lindsey Graham. And look at these people. George Soros, the Koch brothers. Like, how old was David? Which one died? David or the other one? How old was he? 70 years old? All the billions in the world, and couldn't put down the fucking, couldn't have the hamburger without the bun. Fuck him, he's dead. He's 79, sorry, okay. So it's absolutely necessary in every way. That we realize what we're dealing with here. And every day that they become more strident and they become more, more desperate to hold on to power, the more pathetic they look. And I'm actually, if they didn't have so much power, it would be, it'd just be sad watching them play around. I wish they didn't have any power and we could just just kind of watch them. Like the Fletcher Memorial Home from Pink Floyd's the Final Cut. I think about that now. Like, that's where they all need to go, and so they can play all their little games. And if you ever saw the video for that song, it was actually really funny. But Yeah, that's the song that's popping into my head now. You're talking about a strange series of connections, but think about that, right? That's where they all need to go, and they all need to like play their little games, you know, and play all their war games, and they can have their little fights amongst themselves and everything, and they should do that and get the fuck off the stage so that we can go remake the world. So, I don't know. But yeah, that's what's happening in Germany now is the classic, you know, the classic situation where someone who has controlled the political system through force of will and through sheer personality hasn't figured out how to pass it to the next generation because this next generation doesn't share her values. Kind of crazy, guys. Kind of crazy. All right. That's my probably YouTube worthy YouTube banning worthy rant against ageism for the day. I don't know what the hell we're gonna do, but yeah, let's open it up for comments and questions. Northon 60 says, yeah, we need to retire them to a single retirement facility on a distant island, give them a PlayStation so they can fight each other without bothering us. No, just give them a copy of Diplomacy. Like, seriously, like, I would pay money for. Like, Soros and Pelosi and Schumer and Merkel and a couple others, get them together and just, like, set up, like, a 4-camera setup and let them all play Diplomacy. The classic Avalon Hill game of backstabbing and conquest. Just play that, or, you know, because at least that's something I understand, because it's World War I or the Napoleonic Wars, whatever. I can't remember setting for Diplomacy, but that's what they should play. That would be good. That'd be good television. Or for Christ's sake, watching these old boomer fucks just playing Diplomacy all weekend. They could play every weekend. They could just do a live stream of it. It'd be great. Epstein's Island is available. Oh shit, dude. Yay. No, I think we should. I think if we did that, I honestly just set them up playing Diplomacy, pay-per-view, and we could probably balance, you know, somebody's friggin' national debt. It'd be funny. Tone Loke says, do you think a government agency writes the news for both CNN and Fox? The question is, the question isn't, do you think that do you think they write the news? The question you should be asking is, for how long have they been writing the news? Because as far as I'm concerned, they've been writing the news for about 25 years. Epstein's Island is available. That's beautiful. Great. FYI, my drink tonight, salted lemonade. Why? Gatorade. Why? On a hardcore ketogenic diet, dude, you have to be replenishing your electrolytes all the time, because, by the way, for once, you're not retaining water like a fucking blowfish or whatever. You're not retaining water, and therefore your kidneys are functioning properly, and, well, Robert Cielo says, as a Canadian, I'm screwed because I'd rather have an old goat than Trudeau. Well, anything would be better than Trudeau. Yes, you have to have enough salt if you're on this diet. So, yep. Yeah, to remind ourselves, now Umpire's Post reminds us that besides of having no life outside of politics, which again, you know, that's what actually has sustained them. Their minds are sharp because they're constantly having to play this game of having to play these really important life or death games, right? And that's what sustains them. It's why the worst of them unfortunately live into their 90s. But then the minute they stop and they lose their purpose, and then they just collapse. And then we see that all the time. Yeah, not having enough salt. Talk to my chin. Talk to my orbital socket. So they're addicted to power. Yeah, they are. It is what it is. Uh-oh. Cows in the house. All right. I'd say more than half of our leaders have been Epstein compromised. I agree with that completely. What? No, the cat wants attention. Here you go. Come on, buddy. Yes, no, up here. Come on. Yeah, this is gonna devolve quickly because the cat's here now. Browder's looking very sick these days. I haven't seen a recent picture of Bill Browder, but he has aged a lot in the last few years because he knows he's very close to being thoroughly and completely outed for what he is. And stress will do that to you. I mean, look, it's easy. All of this is easy when you can get away with it all. And no one can see you. Hi, cow. You can see him. There's his tail. What? Make the cat famous. I've made him famous before. Oh, this is my cat. Hey, buddy. He hates being picked up. He hates being. And he talks to me all the time. Yes. Look, let's not. Browder just needs to be outed for who he is. He just needs to no longer be protected. Yeah, he is a big boy. He's a fat boy. I keep trying to put him on a diet, but I just feed him less and he just, I don't know, whatever. I don't care. He's the best cat in the world. So, yeah, he is. Hey, buddy. All right. But I have work to do. You've got to leave me alone. You have to go now. Yeah, whatever. All right. Couch could actually do the show. He talks enough. He talks more than I do. In the world. Yes, no, he is the best cat in the world. Is this my smug face? All right. Yeah, I can do Jeremy Clarksonisms all night long and then no one and everybody would go away. So all right. I don't have much else to say here. It's a little early. When are the next regional / federal elections in Germany? I don't know if there are any more state elections on the docket. I haven't looked it up recently, but the next federal elections are in 2021. He's a male tabby, North on 60. He's nothing special. I think he has a little bit of Siamese in him, but a little tiny bit in the way is. And he likes to talk. And, the more you talk to him, the more he talks back. Keto for cats. Yeah, cats actually should be on a ketogenic diet. They should be on. I've actually fed my cats on a raw diet. We used to make cat food for our cats. Same thing with the dogs. We used to do the same thing, and it's just a lot of work making a good mix for them. But cats are pure carnivores. They just need meat and organ meat. That's all they need. They don't need anything else. You give them anything else really, and it's just not good for them. He's fat because he's on kibble, but he's on a high quality kibble. We just eat him too much. Whatever. He's middle aged now. He doesn't give a shit. So, now I'm not a big fan of Siamese. I've lived with them. He is special. I've had a lot of cats. He's a good one. He's a very good one. A hell of a mouser too. So when he's arsed to actually kill a mouse, but yeah. Interview Dr. Paul Saladino. If he's old enough, he can run for office. He couldn't do worse than our current crop of politicians. I'll say that. I like both of them. Jonathan says he prefers dogs. I like them all. I love my dogs. I don't prefer chickens to cats. But you should have, a cat is a very useful thing for any farm or for any any rural life where you're going to have animal feed, and which is going to attract rats and mice and all this other stuff. That's what he's for. And he did a very fine job of that for a long time. Now he's just middle-aged and he doesn't want to work. But he's taken down rats as big as he is. So he knows what and he left it. I know, because he left it for us outside the back door one day. Dude. And then he got the rat, and then he hasn't killed anything since. I mean, dude. There's a mouse living in the ceiling. Could you, who comes out to feed at night? Could you kill him, please? He's done now. Marthon 60 says, my aunt feeds her dog a real meat diet. Dog is healthy now. Before, allergic to everything, behavior, fur falling out, digestive tract issues, now solved. Oh yeah, no, without a doubt. We had our German Shepherds when our kids had fur. That was before we had Sophie. And before we had a farm, and we had, we're taking care of 30 goats and chickens and all this other crap. And we used to just have them on a raw diet. They would be fed every other day. Some amount of meat. And we used to just buy leg quarters we used to just buy 50 to 70 pounds of leg quarters, and we would just chicken leg quarters and other things, turkey necks, and, and other stuff as well. And we were always like processing meat in some other way, so there'd always be other bones around. We'd actually go down to the regularly go down to one of the meat processors, local meat processors, and go through their bone bins. We'd go down there with a big freaking cooler and just fill our cooler full of ribs and backbones and all sorts of stuff for the dogs, and that's when we feed them. We fed them that way for years. And Phoebe, my wife's German Shepherd, lived to 14 and a half. Deaf, nearly blind, eventually she died of cancer. 14 and a half for old German Shepherd. We neutered her too young, too. We spayed her too early. You neuter them really early, you actually harm the lifespan. And the German Shepherd I had, who I rescued, had already been neutered when I got him, was one of those slope back, American style German Shepherds. He had his hips went bad early. But the minute we brought him out here to the farm and had him on the raw diet, and he was able to run all the time, and he would run and run and run. He would chase bugs and bees and bark at the fence, and he would just run all day long. Eventually his hips got stronger, and he lived till he was 12. So you have to. I mean, we fed our cats on a raw diet, and Behemoth lasted until he was just shy of his 20th birthday. So, and this guy wasn't neutered until he was about a year old. So he's all right. And we haven't neutered Goober yet, who's our youngest Maremma, our livestock guardians, Daisy's son, Goober. Daisy's been neutered. She's done having puppies, but Goober hasn't been neutered yet. He's about 18 months old. Or no, he's almost 2 years old. He'll be 2 years in January. And we'll probably get him cut this year. Maybe, because I'm not sure we're gonna breed. We're not gonna use him to get a litter out of him, or use to stud him out together or whatever. So that's what we're looking at there. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, dogs they're scavengers. They'll eat anything. They primarily should live on a meat and bone diet, or on the barf diet, bones and raw food, not beans, bones and raw food. It was actually doing the research into the dog's diet that got us to start looking into low carb stuff like Atkins and other things, and Neanderthal style diets 20 years ago. And then we've better and worse about being on that diet for a long time, until 2 months ago Camille just finally said that going full carnivore, going to find out what I'm truly allergic to and what I can and cannot handle. And she hasn't ever been happier. I mean, it's frightening how much work she gets done, how much more energy she has. I've known my wife 30 years, married to her for nearly 28. And with her allergies, as bad as they are, I've never seen her wake up in the morning in a good mood up until the last couple of months. So it's just the right way of doing this. And a bean-eating dog is a grim smell. So is a dog that you feed too much fat to, by the way. And it is absolutely important that you feed them mostly bones. Feeding them too much fat's not good for them. It destroys their pancreas. So, but yeah, I had a border beagle named Random that you gave him a chicken back that was mostly fat, and he was the odors that came out of this dog. That was a dog that acquired nicknames like most people acquire socks. Like well, Jonathan, you're young. Jonathan says he's not sure you can do it with 100% meat diet. Don't want to give up sweets and ice cream. I got news for you, dude. It's the ice cream that'll kill you. If you're young, you can handle it. You're working on a farm, you can handle it until you get past 30 and everything starts to degrade. Your liver function starts to degrade. You start to lose muscle mass. Your liver and your organ function starts to degrade. Just naturally, 2% a year after sexual maturity, after your sexual peak, you're done. Body goes into decline, and it gets worse as you get older. I know that I couldn't in my 40s just go back to what I was doing in my 30s and never lose weight. I didn't lose any weight. I didn't get healthier. I didn't get better. I just kind of maintained in a kind of half-life state. I've gone full carnivore. I haven't felt as good in years. And it's not a temporary thing. See, people who go from a standard American diet and then go vegan, you hear this all the time. Go, oh my God, I feel so good. Yeah, because you went from the worst diet imaginable, a pig fattening diet. Literally the diet that they feed the pigs to fatten them before they slaughter them, to a diet where you're getting fewer calories, you're not getting as much processed food, you're not getting all the bad fats, you're not getting all this other crap, and you're just eating food, and your body purges a bunch of crap out of it, and yeah, you feel better, but then you don't over time, and you have to work much harder to do a vegan diet to get anything close to the right balance of macronutrients than you get from just fucking eating. And the truth of the matter is, the war against saturated fat has created the healthcare crisis that we have in the West. Saturated fats, animal fats that are actually the healthy fats. All the other ones are garbage. Beer is your problem, says Jesse M. Hey, I understand. I feel you, dude, but that was the first thing I gave up a long, long time ago and went to hard liquor. Well, hard liquor and cigars. Like, good. Well, I'm going to have a vice. It's going to be having a couple of cigars having a couple of cigars a week. But I don't even drink liquor anymore, to be honest with you. I don't want to put the load on my liver, not until I lose another 25 pounds. So I want to get down under 200 pounds. So. Skim milk is exactly to fatten pigs. It's just, there's nothing to it except protein and carbs. Taking all the fat out of it. Take everything good out of the milk. North on 60 says, I'm going to send you a video about keto couple that had MRIs done. They were mistaken for 16-year-olds. They're in their 40s. I think I know that video. I think Camille's already watched it. There's a video of a pair of doctors that have been working on the carnivore diet and been doing heavy blood. I don't know their names because Camille watches this stuff and then she tells me about it, and I just get the Reader's Digest version and go, oh, yep, thanks, good, and just add the next data point into my repertoire. I don't need much more, right? And yeah, and she told me about that. I'm like, I'm not surprised. I can tell you that I can show you my blood work. My blood work don't look like a 51-year-old man was pre-diabetic in his 30s. Whole goat milk is amazing, especially if you raise And your name is Russian, and I can't read Cyrillic anymore. So who says whole goat milk is the best, especially with the cream at the top? I agree. I raised dairy goats for a long time, and especially if you raise dairy goats where they're half meat goat, so you're making milk that's 6.5% butter fat, and you make the world's greatest cheeses. So how much meat should humans eat in ratio terms? Ratio to what? We're carnivores. We outsource most of our digestion to fire. We have the shortest digestive tract of every primate. And really, I'll tell you, here's one for you guys. I like my steaks burned on the outside, crunchy on the outside and raw in the middle, right? Got news for you. Bioavailability of 75% of that steak is half of the 25 that's been charred, that's been seared on the outside. If I eat an 18-ounce ribeye for lunch or 20-ounce ribeye for lunch, that's mostly raw or mostly, rare. I go grazing 6 hours or 8 hours later. If I eat that same steak, medium to medium rare, because Camille overcooked it, I go 24 hours without eating. Litoricious, I don't know what OMAD means, and I can tell you that what I would suggest is you need to get more fat in your diet. People who do keto and they don't do it right are worried about the fat, and they stay away from having the fat, and that's the fat that is what sustains you. You have to burn ketones. You don't want to be in glucoses. Your body will take the excess proteins and burn them as glucose, which you don't want to do. It keeps your blood sugar high, it keeps you insulin resistant, it puts a load on your liver, it interrupts the thyroid and the liver talking to each other, it does all sorts of stuff. Being on a fat diet and getting your body ready to capable of burning fat, and just train it, and you have to train it. Burn ketones. You're in ketosis. You operate at a much higher level. Dr. Paul Saladino is the keto carnivore doctor. So how about jerky? Jerky's fine as long as it's got a lot of fat in it. Camille takes Eye of Round roast. She gets them from Winn-Dixie or wherever, and she slices them real thin. She puts them in the dehydrator, fat and all. She only buys the ones with the big fat cap on the outside. You get a nice ratio of fat calories to protein calories. Slices it, salts it, puts it in the dehydrator, and then sticks it in the refrigerator. So, of course, jerky, you're trying to get rid of most of the fat because the fat goes bad, and you want to store the meat for the long term. So you salt it, and then you dry it, and that'll keep it from going rancid. Don't do that. We have refrigeration. We have refrigeration, and we have cooking. Use it to your advantage. Jerky's fine. 1 meal a day. High fat. Okay, so you're doing 1 meal a day that's high fat? Great. Okay, then, and you should be okay. Protein powders, I found myself it not working for me. I mean, I used to make myself shakes. My goat milk, 6.5 to 7% butterfat, plus cream, and coconut milk. And protein powder wouldn't last me 4 hours. Wouldn't last me 4 hours. I'd still get a blood sugar spike, even though it was sweetened with stevia. I'd still get a blood sugar spike. Wouldn't last me 4 hours. I ate a fucking 20-ounce ribeye. I'm good all day. Done. But yeah, unpasteurized milk. Milk is the only food, guys, that gets worse when you cook it. Milk is in its optimal state for digestion when it comes out of the animal. When you cook it, i.e. pasteurize it, you ruin it. Now, if you're lactose intolerant or if you're allergic to milk proteins, then one of the things to do is to ferment the milk, which is another form of cooking. But you retain all the fats, you digest away all the sugars, you digest away some of the proteins that you're allergic to. Some of those go away as well in the way Get rid of that stuff, and you're left with the yogurt or the cream cheese or the cheese or whatever, and that stuff's much easier. Oh, but don't eat completely 100% meat. I still eat eggs. My wife's been making, Camille's been making chaffles, which are cheese waffles, which are basically cheese and eggs and pressed in a waffle iron. I get to have those with grass-fed butter, 2 eggs, and some meat, and that's breakfast. If I happen to have breakfast, or that's my lunch. You know, some days I eat twice a day. Sometimes I eat once. We just got a FYI, and absolutely pork rinds are a good snack, but they're a little high in protein. And I find myself that if I snack on pork rinds too much, I eat all day. And I'm really better off just eating once a day if I can. Doug Murray says, I had great results with whole sprouted grains and long fermentation oat school sourdough culture, but I still eat more meat and garden veg dairy if cultured. Only if cultured. Absolutely. Oh, look, Camille had just perfected using our goat milk kefir as the basis for a sourdough bread, which is mostly gluten-free, because if you have the right lactobacillus culture in your kefir, then it digests the gluten, or digest the whatever the protein, I can't remember the protein, digest that protein, which minimizes it's the allergenic marker for gluten. And yeah, dude, seriously, best bread in the world. And by the way, going off program for Thanksgiving, gonna have me a small loaf of Camille's goat milk sourdough. Gonna have it, kefir sourdough. Stuff's amazing. Bone broth, absolutely. One of the things you can do if you need, while you're on this diet, one of the things I find is I find myself getting hungry and wanting to graze late at night because maybe I didn't have enough calories that day. Salted lemonade, bone broth with salt, you get your electrolytes that way, and a little bit of gelatin is also good. That'll keep you from breaking your fast, and you'll keep moving, and your body will keep moving forward, and it'll push you forward for another 12 hours. So I don't really want to go like more than a day without eating. I like food too much. Sorry. But yes, casein that's the case. Well, if you're casein allergic, you'll still be allergic to goat milk. There's 2 forms of milk allergies. There's lactose, where you're allergic to lactase, which is the enzyme which breaks down lactose, and then casein, or and those 2 allergens are different. And if you're allergic to the latter, then goat milk won't help you. If you're allergic to the former, then you can drink goat milk. But again, find the less dairy I eat, the more weight I lose, the better I feel. I like dairy. But it's not crazy. I'm not crazy about it. Now, I do eat butter. So, opinions on chocolates, mostly dark. Yeah. And fat. It should be just like, cocoa powder dissolved in, coconut oil. I saw a great meme a friend of mine sent me before I went live. It says it was a billboard outside of a Texas steakhouse or whatever. It says the only essential oil I need is bacon grease. Like, so, but you can also a bone broth is a good way to get your electrolytes and a few extra calories later in the day if you need them. Another thing is chocolate fat bombs, which is what I just described. So just some cocoa powder, coconut oil, melt the coconut, melt one into the other. We'll make some in little freezer trays with a toothpick sticking out of them. Sprinkles a little salt on top. Pop one of those out. Boom. But we just got a pig, like a whole pig, like last week. Whole pig. Guy grew it for us. Finished on acorns for an extra month or an extra 2 weeks because the meat processor wasn't ready for him yet. So he got extra fat. And then we told them, don't trim the fat off of anything. So we've got these We've got these pork shoulder steaks that have a fat cap on them, like this thick. The jowl bacon is freaking amazing. Yeah, it's all good. Popcorn with coconut oil, but popcorn bad for you. Though I will eat some when I go to see Rise of Skywalker in a month and a half. I'll eat a lot of it, and then I'll pay for it for 2 days. All right, guys, we're at 1 hour and 10 minutes. I'll do another diet. We'll do more of the diet stuff as we go along here, but I do love talking about this stuff. We've been talking about it we've been doing this stuff for years. I know that I'm not. I know that we've been doing the things right for a long time. I don't chapter and verse have all the sources down. That's Camille's job. That's what she does with her time, and she's become an unbelievable resource on this. And it's just part of the story that you tell yourself. It's just part of the story that you build for yourself over the course of time. All right. So, yeah, the politics is good. Life, diet, storytelling, all the other things that go along with it, also really, really important. So, loved hearing me on fault lines. Thank you, Jessica. Appreciate it. Thank Lee and Garland. They make a point of having me on once a week. And one of these days, I got to get up to Washington and meet those guys directly and hang out with them. So, yep, you top your steak with butter to make up for lean cuts. It works beautifully. Literacious, you're absolutely right. Agree. I do it. You know, if I get a lean cut of meat. London broil. Perfect example is like London broil. You make a London broil and then you slice it thin. What Camille does is she makes a mix of clarified butter and raw garlic and drizzles that over it. I will leave you with my tongue hanging out. So this has been the Gold Goats and Guns hour and 15 minutes and dietary and no vegan and fuck vegans hour. Let's put it that way. It's been the Gold Goats and Guns fuck vegan hour. If you like what you heard tonight, leave a like and subscribe down below. Do the thing. You know, it's the whole YouTube thing. And if you don't and if you don't like what you heard tonight, well, fuck you. I don't give a shit. All right. So you guys take care. We'll talk soon. I'll be back Monday night at 8 p.m. as always. Friday nights at 8:30. You all know the drill. If you don't like it, it's okay. We're good. I'm still going to come up. I'm still going to show up until YouTube tells me I'm not allowed to anymore. You be well. Keep your stick on the ice.